Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Tarot Podcast, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and your local witch next door. And today I'm talking about tarot and ritual. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. Thanks so much for those of you who were able to attend my virtual tarot card creation event last week. We had a ton of fun. If you signed up but were unable to make it to the live event, you should have the replay of the event recording in your email inbox, the PDF I made you with my step-by-step process, and an offer to join my upcoming series called Tarot for Transformation. So check your email and let me know if you did not receive that. If you love the show, the best way to support it is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. I just updated my Patreon benefits to be bigger and better than ever. I will be hosting live episodes every new moon to do a new moon collective tarot reading. If you join the lovers of the podcast level of the Patreon, you will get access to an exclusive Discord to chat with me live during the stream. I'll pull a card for each one of my patrons in addition to the new moon collective spread. If you want an individual card pulled for you once a month live on the podcast, join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family at the lovers level. If you'd like to support the podcast even further, you can get a one-time individual 5-card reading in addition to all the other benefits if you join the Witch Bitch level on the Patreon. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, check out the Let's Talk Tarot meetup group for the latest event postings. I'm going to have 2 events that are upcoming posted on there as soon as this episode comes out. So I will be doing another in-person crafting, tarot card crafting event that will be on there and will be at one of the local libraries. And then I'm also scheming up a women's circle that I'm going to be also having on my Let's Talk Tarot meetup group event meetup posting, and we're going to be hopefully doing a women's circle with my friend Izzy that I'm going to be talking about shortly that I did my ritual with, and we're going to both be kind of co-hosting that hopefully on every full moon in our local area in Tacoma. So you can be on the lookout for that. Check out the meetup group, and the link for that is in the show notes or on my website if you ever need to find it. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on my upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. And if you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist, seeing clients virtually all over Washington State. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. If you'd like to work with a therapist that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards that I pull. So welcome to season 10, where I'm talking all about tarot and witchcraft. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, go ahead and check those out. In season 1, I talked tarot basics. In seasons 2 and 3, I went through the major arcana cards and an overview of the 4 suits. In season 4, I talked tarot and pop culture. In season 5, I went through 13 common tarot spreads. In season 6, I went through the suit of wands. Season 7 was the suit of pentacles, season 8 the suit of swords, and season 9 the suit of cups. So at this point I've gone through all 78 of the sort of standard cards in the tarot deck. So if you're ever looking for a particular episode about a specific card, I've talked about it, and you can always go on my website. And you can search on the podcast tab. You can search by the name, and I just do fairly simple namings for all my podcast episodes, and so you should be able to type in Two of Cups and it'll show right up there if you want to find the notes for it. If you go on Spotify or your chosen podcast app, you can kind of scroll through. It's going to be maybe a little bit harder to search, usually because it searches the whole podcast database, not just my podcast. But that is why I go through these season descriptions. And yeah, we are on episode 124 now. So there's a lot of them. So yeah, there's lots to listen to. And I don't know if you can tell, hopefully you can, but I got a new microphone. Praise the microphone gods, because I was using a tiny little handheld microphone for the last 123 episodes, and I'm so glad you stuck with me until now, but this microphone hopefully should be a lot better. So this is, another thing that joining the Patreon can help me with, right? Improve my podcasting logistics to make your listening experience better. All right, so let's get into our topic for today. I'm talking about tarot and ritual. So like I teased earlier, if you listened to my last episode, I talked about solstices and specifically summer solstice. I'm in the northern hemisphere here in the Seattle, Washington state, USA area. So we just moved into, we just had our summer solstice. So we had the longest daylight hours of our year, at least for me, yesterday. And yeah, if you're in the southern hemisphere, you just had your darkest day, your shortest day of the year. So it's going to be feeling a little bit different. But I was able to go over to my friend Izzy's house last night, and we did a summer solstice ritual of a sort. And I'm going to kind of break it down for you. My version of a ritual, it was pretty chill. I'll just say that. I know when I was first starting out on my witch or tarot journey, I got all these, I used to go into bookstores and get used books all about witchcraft and magic and all these things, and I bought books like Practical Magic or Psychic Witch, or I have this Hedge Witch Book of Days that I'm going to reference a little bit further in the episode, and the link for that is in the description if you want to go find it. It's an older book, but it's quite good. Yeah, and so I used to really go by those, or I felt like, oh, I need to go Google again, summer solstice ritual and do all the things. And that was very overwhelming for me, at least, because most of the time I'm practicing my witchcraft alone. I do have an online coven. Shout out to the Dirty Hoe Coven. You can find us on Instagram by that hashtag, where we're a bunch of gardeners that meet online, usually weekly, to learn from each other, discuss things. Then occasionally, usually about once a year, we try to meet up in person for a retreat to get to hang out with each other, which is so much fun. But kind of the rest of the year, I'm mostly practicing alone. I mean, I'm doing my podcast, so, I'm often doing tarot. I'm in my office, I'm recording, or I'm doing tarot for myself when I'm not recording, usually on my bed. Usually it's a nighttime kind of ritual for me, but this time it was super fun to celebrate with a friend who's also kind of witchy, my friend Izzy. So last night I went over to her apartment. I brought her a beautiful flower bouquet. So yeah, in the Hedge Witch Book of Days book, it is a book that kind of goes by month or season. So I went in there briefly and looked at June. It talks about fruits and vegetables that are in season, seafood, wild foods, and then it has correspondences. So it talks about that the June full moon is usually the strawberry moon because it's the height of strawberry picking season. It's also known as the planting moon or the green corn moon. Again, sort of all of these moon names are based off of farming. It talks about the astrological signs, which are Gemini and Cancer. So Gemini, usually season ends around June 20th and we move into Cancer season on the solstice on June 21st. Talks about birthstones, nature spirits, animals, birds, trees, flowers, herbs, scents, colors, goddess, powers, and other that are all associated with June, at least the month of June. So I did look in here to look at the herbs. It talks about yarrow, fennel, and St. John's wort. St. John's wort, if you haven't ever seen it, is a flower that generally blooms on solstice. It has small 5-petaled flowers, so it kind of looks like a pentacle or a pentagram, which is very cool. And again, I have a lot in my yard. Actually, it is a medicinal plant, which is very cool, as are yarrow and fennel. But I love that the St. John's wort often blooms around solstice. I think mine bloomed maybe like a week early this year, but it's still going strong now. They also talk about scents of honeysuckle, rose, and lavender. And again, often these are things that are in bloom at the time of the month or the full moon time or for solstice. But yeah, this is just one example of a reference book that you can use. This one, I do like it. It has, you can hear me turning pages here, but a couple pages about each one. It has a sun spell in this one, a solstice strawberry pudding recipe. It talks about kind of the time of year, talks about herbs and stress busters and connecting with the outside world. And then in here they have an example of a ritual. They talk about some like a theme for the month. They have a jam recipe, and then they talk about witchy ways to celebrate June. So if you don't have a book like that, it can be very helpful for this kind of thing where you just kind of want a reference of some kind. But most of the time I don't really refer to those at this point. I kind of have some of those general correspondences in my head already. So I did go out into my yard because I know I had St. John's wort blooming, and I also have these beautiful, I think they're called prairie sundrops or evening primrose flowers that are also yellow. They bloom, or they open in the evening. They're not necessarily open during the day. And I was going over to her house at night. So I was like, I'll go in my backyard and get a flower bouquet. So I actually will have a picture of that on my Instagram, most likely, and then definitely on my website. I'll have a picture of the bouquet that I created. Not everything in there is a yellow flower, which is kind of generally the color associated with summer solstice, but they're also like that rose petal, sort of association. Again, I think often because roses are blooming this time of year. But then when we went over there, so I brought Izzy a bouquet, which was very fun to kind of set the scene and bring her something from my yard, which I love doing during the summer. I have enough plants, cut flower plants in my backyard now that I can usually make a bouquet a week in the summertime from my yard. I chose to drink some chamomile and Tulsi rose mix tea. So I was getting that rose in, getting chamomile in, and it was a very nice combo. And that chamomile was in this Hedwig Book of Days association for this month. Like I said, I picked the flower bouquet and brought it, so we had that in our space. And then we each found a solstice tarot spread, and we each did a spread for each other. So that was like the whole ritual. We hung out for a couple hours. We did that. First we, caught up, and then we kind of got into drinking our tea and settling down and sort of creating more of a ritual space. And then we each enjoyed kind of finding a solstice tarot spread just online. You can always create your own, or if you have books that have spreads in them, that's very fun. If you want general spread info, you can check out my season 5. I went through 13 common tarot spreads. I think I did one maybe for the spring equinox when I was recording it then, because that was the time of year it was for me. But yeah, so I'm just going to go through what we did. So the solstice tarot spread prompts, the spread that I found, I'll link it in the show notes and on my website. It was just called Solstice Tarot. I found it, let me see if I can pull the name by Intention Creative 736 they posted it on Reddit on the r/tarot subreddit. So you can find them online. I would say generally go through. We looked at a couple. I did one for Izzy first, so I used my tarot deck and used a spread we found for her and did a reading for her, and then she did one for me as well. And this is like the spread that I used, so it was a 7-card spread. It can be kind of fun when you are doing more of a ritual time and you have a bit more time to do a longer spread. Some people do 10-card spreads all the time, like the Celtic Cross is a common one. Sorry, but can't be bothered. A 5-card spread is like a lot for me. 7 like feels like, wow, look at me, I'm doing a whole ritual. It can be fun to get that sort of clarity. But 10 all the time would be way too, like I would just never do tarot if I sort of set myself to the place of doing 10 cards every time. But it's very interesting to kind of ask if you know anyone else that does tarot, like what their standard is. Like I'm definitely I like pulling 3 cards, like a past, present, future, mind, body, spirit kind of deal. Usually for me, 1 card doesn't feel like enough. Some people really like doing a card of the day. I'm actually going to talk about that next episode, is like tarot in daily practice. But this one, again, was a little bit bigger deal. It was a ritual I wanted to celebrate. We got together to celebrate the solstice together, and that was very fun. So yeah, I'm going to go through the tarot spread that I did, what the prompts were, and then I'm going to tell you what cards that I pulled and kind of like the meaning that I gleaned from them. And yeah, hopefully that's interesting to you. You can do the spread for yourself as well. You can think about how the spread that I pulled might relate to you in this point in your life. But yeah, so the first card, and again, I'll have the image of the spread, like where each card laid on my website for this episode. You can see that, and then also on my Instagram, and then I'll have the actual like pictures of the cards that I pulled, and I used my friend Izzy's deck, which is the Light Seers Tarot by Chris Ann, and I'll link that in the description as well, and on my website if you want to buy this deck. It's very beautiful. I really like it. I might actually buy it. I was looking at it the other day before I even went to her house, so it's very fun. But yeah, okay, let's get into it. So the first card, the prompt was, "You're present." This card is a snapshot of you today. And almost all the cards I pulled were in reverse, or that Izzy pulled for me were in reverse. So that was kind of interesting. Sometimes that can feel challenging if you don't feel super comfortable with reversals, or if the deck you have like doesn't really like have descriptions for the reversals specifically. The deck we were using did, so that was helpful, because it just gave me a bit more, like it was a little bit easier instead of having to sort of be like, okay, maybe we're gonna like do this thing and then we're gonna try to interpret what the reversal would mean. It kind of was just like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm trying to find the images, because yeah, so if you have a tarot deck, you can go and look in your tarot deck guidebook about what this card might mean. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting to pull all of that together. And sorry, I'm clicking over here because I'm trying to find a picture of the deck on my computer so I can look at the image that I had, but I'm struggling. Alrighty, I found it. So yeah, okay, so the first one I pulled, which is my present, this card, a snapshot of you today, was the 10 of Swords reversed. So again, using our knowledge of the tarot, we can think about that the 10 of any suit is generally a bit about completion, usually between ace and 10. Ace is sort of like the Fool equivalent in the minor arcana, and then you get to 10 and it's a bit about completion. And then generally these sort of court cards, which would be the Page, Knight, Queen, King, are seen as like more significant things going on in your life, or just like a bigger impact. But yeah, so you have this sort of microcosm of the hero's journey, or of the major arcana, the Fool through the world, showing up in the suit. So if we use our knowledge of that, so the 10 of Swords generally about completion, but also it's reversed, and swords are about that sort of like intellect, anxiety, overthinking, sort of energy. If you think about a sword, they sort of think about it as slicing through the air. So it is like associated with air signs. And I am an Aquarius, which is an air sign. And so I can definitely tend towards overthinking or anxiety type of things. So immediately those are kind of the things I'm thinking about. If you go and look at the image of the Ten of Swords in the Lightseers deck or in the spread, I have the image of the spread so just you can see that, or if you Google it, or if you have the deck, you can look at it, and it's sort of like a person. They sort of look like they're standing maybe in a desert, and there's like wind whipping, and they're sort of, we only see the back of them. They're like looking out kind of on a vast expanse, and then we see 10, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, 10 black or dark colored birds that are sort of like above them. That's going on there. So I'm going to be looking in the Sasorbito Tarot Deck Guidebook to just give me a general idea of, what is the Ten of Swords usually about. Again, you can always reference, you can look online by just Googling it. If you have a book that has all of the cards in it, you can look at that. But yeah, so it talks about that the Ten of Swords upright is often about sacrifice, victim mentality, and hopelessness. But of course, if we think about it in reversed, it says maybe this is the end of a mindset or belief system, or the pushing back against loss. So I definitely was feeling some of that, like, oh, there's something that I think I'm gonna start mourning or sort of like letting go of, that I had this maybe more victim mentality, or like, woe is me, everything's happening to me, oh, it's so hard, la la la. But if we think about the reversal, it's a little bit of like, okay, like, yeah, that was my previous mindset, but now I'm trying to move out of that, right? So if that is what my present is about, it's sort of about acknowledging the fact that I'm moving away from the state of how I was, where I maybe felt like I was out of control of things, or that I just kind of like had to keep going, but almost for no good reason, right? Again, if we think about the 10 of a suit, the 10 is like the end. So it's sort of this like, oh, you've reached the end, and it kind of like wasn't everything you wanted, right? And maybe you thought it would be this sort of solution to things, but instead it was just this like journey of hardship. So yeah, again, so sort of the interpretation I took from this was like, okay, like I'm allowed to move on from that hardship, or let that thing go, and not kind of hold so tightly to it anymore, or sort of force myself to like, oh, I just gotta like, keep going up the hill and like keep striving. All right, so let's move on to the next prompt, which was your opportunity. This is card 2, and it says, all the tools you have, the people who support you, your inner strength, whatever is most bountiful to bring you to your goals. And for this one, I pulled the Knight of Cups reversed. So that is a court card, like I was talking about earlier, right? That is a, we're getting into sort of like the royalty. Generally, knights are sort of very much about action. Again, if you think about a knight in medieval times, right? They're going out, they're in the field, they're like going to war. They are usually decisions being made by the king or whoever's in charge about what they're going to do, and they're sort of carrying it out. But of cups, we think of cups are about emotions. Cups are a water sign or associated with water. So you have this sort of like fluidity. So the Knight of Cups is often about this like sensitivity, poetic, temperamental. And so again, if we think about the reversal, it said maybe the reversal Knight of Cups can be overly emotional, thin-skinned, or living too much in a fantasy world. And so again, if we think about that, this card is about my opportunity, all the tools I have, the people who support you, your inner strength, whatever is most bountiful to bring you to your goals. It sounds like it's sort of about this like being empathetic and emotional is sort of my inner strength, and right, that maybe in the past I didn't set good boundaries, or I sort of again let things happen to me. And so it had turned into this struggle or feeling overly emotional, thin-skinned, or living in this fantasy world of like, again, if I just keep going, or because I have this idea that I'm doing what's right or what I need to be doing, that's enough, that I don't need to think about the reality or logistics or things like that. And so, yeah, again, so upright, this card is about sort of this like hopeless romantic. And I think like that's sort of what I was gleaning from it, was like, again, sort of having been in this like hopeless romantic stage, and then entering more into like, okay, but right, that being kind of hopeless about it wasn't really working. And so as I think about bringing me to my goals and what's next, and the opportunity is, right, is that like my opportunity is still from that place of sensitivity and hopefulness and introspection and beauty in the world, but I need to kind of be seeking those things in a different place, is sort of my interpretation of this for myself. And that is what's bountiful, is going out in the world. And again, instead of perhaps scheduling my work based on what I think I should do or what other people are doing or what their businesses look like, it's more like, oh no, like, go for the things that are exciting to you. Go for the things that would be like the total dream, right? The hopeless romantic side of things, like this would be like so cool if I got to do this. And I have been experimenting with that a bit more this year, especially in this like quarter to the last couple months. And it's been very fun to see like what was possible, I would say, by just sort of shooting for the stars. I feel like thus far I've pretty much gotten everything I wanted, which is very cool, or it's sort of like in the works. And so there is something inspiring about that, and thinking about that as an opportunity, and that is like the way I should be going, not as much towards this like toiling of the Ten of Swords. So next, for card 3, it says your message. This is what the universe is trying to tell you, perhaps a new message or one you have been ignoring. And for that one, I pulled the Queen of Cups reversed. So again, we're like in the same suit, we're only one card removed from the one I just pulled. And so upright, the Queen's about compassion, loving, empathetic, intuitive. If you look at the image for this card, it's like a woman like with her eyes, like she looks like she's meditating. She's got like her hands up. She looks very connected like to spirit. She has this like sort of aura. She has this like crown floating above her, and she's like seated in kind of like deep water. Like the water goes up. She's seated, but it goes like up to her chest. And then there's a cup kind of sitting right in front of her, but she looks very at peace, kind of in the water, like immersed in that way. So in this tarot deck guidebook, which is the Sacerdote Tarot deck by Stasia Burrington, and I'm really just using this guidebook because it kind of uses the standard Rider-Waite-Smith interpretations, and because the deck that I had the cards read from yesterday is from Izzy's deck, I don't have the tarot deck guidebook for that one. So yesterday we talked through what her guidebook said, and then we did a little bit of like searching online about what it could mean, and just our own what we could glean from the image and what we know of the Queen of Cups as well. But yeah, and here it talks about the Queen of Cups as a giver, emotionally intelligent. She's shown holding a large cup full of water in which the stars are reflected, loving kindness that's endless, deep, unconditional. The energy of this card is wise and mature. The Queen is an empath, in tune with her spirituality, her understanding of interconnectedness. So reverse, this would be about, you might be having a hard time accessing or communicating your emotions. Try and be more like the Queen of Cups, especially in regards to self-talk. So I think for me, yeah, the universe was sort of telling me there, or what I feel like I'm gleaning from this is like, no, you gotta do that intuition thing. You gotta actually like allow your emotions to come up and allow the messages to come through and be communicated. And we can't be living in fear of, again, sort of this like Ten of Swords, like, or even the Knight of Cups reversed, this like hopeless romantic side of things, or just, I guess, the hopeless part of it, right? Where it's just kind of like, I'm just going to put my things out there and then I'm going to not do anything to follow through. The Queen of Cups is saying, right, like, no, you have to follow through. Like, you have to actually like dig into the depths of your emotions and kind of like look at them and sort them out and decide. And then also with this regards to self-talk piece, right, of like, okay, don't just like self-talk your way out of doing something because it doesn't seem logical, or again, it's not what other business people tell you to do or what other people are doing. I think the message the universe is saying is like, I'm trying to enter into my Queen of Cups era, and right now, or I've sort of been sitting in this like, oh, I'm almost there, or again, I think of reversals sometimes as like, it's like on the edge. Like we're working towards it, we're thinking about it, you know, we're trying hard to kind of move to transition into this place of difference, of change, of transmutation, but we're right, maybe with the self-talk, oh, I'm talking myself out of it, or I'm thinking, oh, I can't do that, or I'm getting caught up in which for me looks like, I feel like my Virgo tendencies, which are like logistics, or like, oh, I can't do that because this reason, or because it's hard, or because I haven't done it before, instead of just saying like, no, like, if you are channeling what your intuition wants, what the universe is trying to tell you, things will work out and you will make steps towards that. All right, so the fourth card is all about to bloom from your past, the lessons or tools you should take from your years so far to nurture and grow. And for this one, I pulled the Death card, but again, in reverse. So Death is generally a card about transformation, right? Death, if we think about it sort of literally, is major transformation, right? It's like this card rarely represents literal death, but it suggests an ending to things, a new beginning, an opportunity for growth. There's often this grief that's present, letting go, saying goodbye, and it might, right, that something might be ending, but also there's huge potential for increased awareness. So that's sort of the upright definition, or sort of what we see from the Death card. I really like the like actual image of this card. It's like, looks like a person wearing like a red cloak, and I mean, you can barely tell it's a person, but then instead of like where their face would be, we just see them from the chest up, so you just see this like red fabric, and they have like a hood on, we see the red, and then like where the face would be is like starry night, like it's a blue sky with some starlight, and then like trees, where it's kind of this like, oh, endless possibility, or that we're looking through, right, the death or transformation into what can be next, what the future holds. So in reverse, this card would be about blocked grief, clinging to the past, right? Clinging to that thing that, right, the Ten of Swords is telling me I need to let go of, clinging to that thing where it says, no, like, you're at the end of that journey, right? Again, okay, the Ten of Swords, like, you made it, you did it, and like, you made it all the way there, and just because that's not what you thought it was going to be doesn't mean that the journey isn't over. So it says something that should have come to an end persists. Everything must come to an end, whether quietly or being drawn out. So which would you prefer? So I think, right, this card sort of telling me like, this is ending kind of no matter what you think about it or not, or whether you're going to cling to it or not. It's just kind of, how long do you want to sit in the grieving process? And how, like, when are you going to be ready to move into, to change, right? To transform, again, to transmute into something new, to get past, to, in the sense, move beyond death or the death of the thing, and like welcome in something new. So the next card's prompt is to bury from your past. This is what you should not just bury, but hold a funeral for. So again, right, they're telling me like, grieve, acknowledge it, mark it with a grave if needed, but leave it behind. And so for this one, I pulled the Queen of Swords reversed. And so again, we have another court card, we have another queen, we have swords. So we've had like 2 swords cards, 2 cup cards, and death. So again, like strong messages. So the Queen of Swords, again, so swords are about that airy, that intellect, that overthinking sometimes, or like thorough thinking. The queen on this card that I'm looking at, she's sort of sitting, she's got like a sword, but she looks very chill in some ways. Like she's sitting down, we see some flags, we see a bird in the distance, but she doesn't look like she's like in action necessarily. She looks like she's contemplating, or she's sort of strategizing about what's next. So upright, this card is about intelligence, realism, and honesty. It says the Queen of Swords is staring directly into the sword's edge, holding it in reverence. She holds honesty and truth above all. So in reverse, this is about, it says, this is a suggestion to be more like the Queen of Swords, to keep your wits about you and use logic to serve your current problems. Try to be as clear as possible in your communication with others and learn to be okay with discomfort or fear of hurting others' feelings. In short, be wary of being a people pleaser, right? So again, this is telling me, so the thing to bury in my past, the thing to hold a funeral for, is being a people pleaser. It's like kind of what I'm gleaning from this, right? And saying like, okay, that's how I used to be, right? I had a tendency to fall into that. I had a tendency to put other people's needs before my own. I had a tendency to not hold my own boundaries, or not even like pretend like I had boundaries. And right, this prompt was telling me with this one, like, no, you got to bury that. You got to stop holding on to that identity as well, right? Because like really what people pleasing means, right? It kind of sounds nice in theory, but really it means like you're putting other people's needs before your own, and therefore like instead of resenting other people or having people resent you, you are resenting yourself is usually what happens. And this is, again, because I have struggled with this in the past, or I'm familiar with it. This is often what I work with clients also in my therapy practice, is clients who, like me, right, had this sort of identity or would fall into people pleasing. And not always communicating with others, or not always being honest with others or truthful for fear of hurting others. But again, really people pleasing means then that if you're not hurting others and allowing them to like, and being able to sit in that discomfort, then you're hurting yourself. And so, yeah, again, this prompt seems pretty clear. It's telling me, no, you got to leave that in the past. You got to let go of that identity. You got to bury it. You got to have a funeral for it. You got to acknowledge it. You mark it with a grave. And then, right, you can go visit it sometimes and be like, oh, there lies me and my people pleasing. I used to do that. Oh, so sad. Let's put some flowers on it. Like, oh, that's rough. Sad for her. But right, and that was a part of my identity, but I get to leave it behind, right? I don't have to hold on to that for the rest of time. I can acknowledge that there was a part of me that would fall into that tendency, that used to do that, or that used to think that that was the way to not hurt others. But now, right, I'm being called to, no, you gotta bury it. You gotta like acknowledge that it happened, right? Acknowledge that that's what it was, and let it go. All right, and so for the 6th card, it talks about to avoid for your future intrinsic or extrinsic goals. This card will pair with the 3rd card, which was about the message from the universe, which for me was the Queen of Cups reversed, and to send a message for outcomes unavoidable. So for this card, I pulled Judgment reversed, and the image for this card on the Light Seers Tarot is like a person, they're holding their hands kind of up together, like to the sky, and then we see this like almost like ghostly or like soul image of them, like pulling out of them and like going into the sky. So when I see that, I sort of think of like self-judgment. But let's kind of see what judgment is about. So judgment upright is about knowing what you want, taking responsibility for your actions and life. It's a card of rebirth, new beginnings, and accepting past mistakes and actions. Judgment's a card of release and reconciliation. So reverse, this would be about taking on burdens, being haunted by, and clinging to the past. Do you see themes here? All of these cards for me are about like, stop clinging to the past. So right, it's telling me, so the thing to avoid for my future intrinsic or extrinsic goals, the thing that, right, that if I don't sort of think about it will become unavoidable, is this idea of like being haunted and clinging to the past. Like, stop people pleasing, right? Like, stop doing this, stop overthinking, stop thinking that this thing that you thought would work out by just working harder at it is worthwhile, right? It's telling me, no, just let it go. Like it served its time, it served its purpose, and now you get to move on to bigger and better things, right? And when we think about how this relates to the Queen of Cups, which was about, again, sort of that like intuition, right? So again, like, don't like work towards intuition instead of working towards people pleasing is sort of the message that I'm getting from that. There's a quote in here that says, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old but on building the new, from Socrates. And so, right, again, this card is telling me like, stop clinging to the past. Like, it's not helping. Like, like I'm putting all my energy right into, again, like dragging this thing along that is over and done with. It's dead, right? I pulled the death card. It's dead. And so just focus on, right, again, bury it right here where it is, and then like you get to move on. You don't have to take that with you, right? You don't have to keep dragging that dead body with you. You get to move on. All right, and then finally I pulled, so the prompt is to seek for your future. The last card will be your source of opportunities and abundance. If a card here feels negative, this may be what you can heal if you don't avoid it. So for this one, I got the 5 of Wands, which, yeah, was sort of interesting. I wasn't quite sure what it meant upon just looking at it. The image in the Light Seers Tarot, and again, this was my only card that was upright in this whole reading, shows like 5 people. They sort of look like rock climbers to me, but we can't really see what they're climbing. And then we see all these like wands, or like they look like large sticks or trees that the people are sort of trying to like clamber up. But Izzy actually said, oh yeah, it kind of looks like they're trying to climb up this ladder, but like the 5 wands are all like set up like in the wrong, like they're not set up as a very good ladder. Like they're crossing each other, like they're not, it's like a lot of like angles and diagonals. Like they're not, you're not holding like the 2 sticks and then having like the horizontal bars, right? Which you could do with 5 wands or, you know, trees, if you think of it. Like you could have 2 long ones and you could put, you know, 3 across and like, okay, you could start climbing up. But what we see is like 5 different people trying like all these different positions and like things to like get to the top of something. Again, it really makes me think of like rock climbers when I see the image. So the 5 of Wands upright is about tension, competition, and conflict. There's confusion, communication difficulties, butting of heads, and experiencing discomfort and frustration. There might be different viewpoints in play. The 5 of Wands on this card are bursting into flame from the friction, and we do see flames also in this Light Seers Tarot at the top. The card can be a call for patience and a willingness to listen to different opinions. Alternatively, you can choose to embrace the friction as a necessity to create a fire. The high energy and many voices or viewpoints are necessary and work together. So again, if we think about this with the prompt of this is your source of opportunities and abundance, maybe this is like where you need to heal, I think for me is around this sort of like fiery energy. So again, I'd only pulled Cups and Swords, and then 2 major arcana cards, the death and judgment, previously. And so the one thing, right, that tells me like to work on for the future that will be my source of opportunities is like a fire element. And I talk about this with my business coach Dove a lot, but in my astrological, like in my birth chart, I have very little fire. I have a lot of water. I have a lot of air. I have some earth, a lot of water. But if you think about those elements, right? Okay, water, we have air, and we have earth. Like, what can you make with those? Like mud. You can, right? You can have rain. You can have like lakes and stuff, but like no, right? With very little fire in that sense, right? Everything just gets drowned out, or everything just gets muddy, right? It's unclear, it's confused, or it's just, yeah, it's hard to sift through. So I really like this calls to me, because a thing we talk about is that like I have to like find the parts of me that are that fiery energy, right? And fire wands are all about creation, activation, like the spark, right? When we think of like creativity and ideas, we often use language like sparks fly, or right, like we're gonna spark something, we're gonna light it up, right? All of these are like, oh, we're gonna like have all these ideas, and then also this aspect of five cards are generally this sort of like conflict or tension, because again, if you think about it, if the ace through 10 is sort of a microcosm of the hero's journey, like in the middle of a book, when you're reading, oh, okay, like this happened, and then we're getting to the end, like the middle of the book is often the part where it's like, okay, I'm not quite sure like where we're going with this. Like something's hard. Like, are we going to make it to the end? Like, we're not to the climax part of the book yet. We're not to like the thing that's really going to change things. We're still in the like, oh God, like things are terrible. So I really think about that with the like 5 cards of sort of like, ooh, it's like conflict, it's challenging. But with this, I think for me, again, if this is my source of opportunities as abundance, is like finding, right? Maybe instead of viewing things as competition or conflict, or feeling like I need to be in competition with other people, again, like about my business or about what I need to do, it's like, nah, just let that go, right? Like find your own creativity and fire and things that light me up. Again, another phrase that is very fiery, like the wands, and like embrace, yeah, like the energy that I have around the things that excite me. Because again, it's very hard to like sustain things if you don't feel excited about them, or at least it is for me. And that like I do actually, I guess another part of my sort of journey as I think about this is thinking that I can just do everything on my own. So I do, right, it's like there can be tension and conflict when you have 5 people trying to climb a ladder together, or, right, it can happen really quickly. You can have like competition, which sometimes, again, like for me is often I view it as negative, but competition also means that like, yeah, that there's energy towards like getting to the top. There's energy towards like, how are we going to do this thing? Like, how do we do it together? And so I think of that like energy and voices and viewpoints are necessary to work together, that I'm, right, part of this journey, my opportunities and abundance is working with other people, right, in my business, not just like with clients, but like allowing other people to help me, like asking for help, doing things together, collaborating. I think for me that is sort of what this is about. And then when I do so, right, when I allow myself to collaborate, or when I not just like silo, do everything in my own head, in my own office, in my own home, which is how I'd been doing things for a couple of years in my business, that like getting out of that space, going to seeing other people, asking them what they want, trying to figure out how do we do this together, and that energy feeds itself. And so this is telling me, right, like this is where I can heal, is this thinking that I can do it all on my own. Well, like look what happens when you don't have to do it on your own. Look what happens, like how much faster things can go if you allow other people to collaborate with you. All right, so that was a long episode, but it was also a long tarot spread. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. It's a fun spread. If you want to do it as well on your end, we'll have the prompts up on the website, or you can just go to the Reddit link where someone posted it if you want to see it as well. Yeah, and then I'm just gonna go pull a card real quick to see what the cards have to say on this topic. Let me decide what deck would be good. All right, I'm gonna use the Sacerdote Tarot deck because that's the deck guidebook that I was talking from or looking through. Oh wow, you can really hear me shuffle on this microphone. I'll do a couple quick shuffles. So yeah, I'm just gonna be thinking about, right, this was kind of a long spread, but thinking about how do I, right, let go of things from my past? How do I let go of that people-pleasing tendency or identity that I had? And how do I move into allowing competition, allowing myself to have fiery creative energy, allowing myself to want things badly enough that actually I will be sad if they don't come to fruition, but instead of in the past maybe deciding that like, oh, I'm just not going to want anything because then I won't get disappointed. Right, allowing the emotions, which is also what the Queen of Cups is about there. Okay. Oh, okay. I got the Ace of Cups. It sort of fell out of the deck, so that's what we're doing. And the Ace of Cups is, right, it's the beginning of the journey and it's about emotions. So it's exactly what we were just talking about. But let's take a look here. So yeah, cups are associated with water and emotion. The Ace of Cups is all about love, emotional intelligence, and compassion. This card shows a teacup full and overflowing with tea. It indicates your capacity for giving and receiving love. This card points to the possibility of love, be it romantic or otherwise. The focus here is on intuition, empathy, and kindness, as well as attraction and affection. The cups center around feelings and spirituality, so trust your gut and listen to your heart. Oh, how nice. So yeah, this is telling me, right, like, it's okay, like, be nice to yourself. Like, you're gonna have a full teacup, you're gonna be overflowing with things that you want, right? It's telling me, right, that I can give and receive, that I'm allowing possibility, right, love, romantic or otherwise, or opportunities to come into my realm. And also that to focus on intuition, empathy, and kindness. The cups are about feelings and spirituality, right? So trusting my gut and listening to my heart and allowing that to sort of guide me, perhaps instead of some of these other things from the past of like fear or clinging to the past or the overthinking, intellect, anxiety type of things, right? This is saying like, oh, just, it's chill, right? Like we can just be in our emotions, we can love, we can have compassion for ourselves. And I think that's what this is really about. So I love that as sort of like a distillation of a message from Summer Solstice is like, embrace it, right? Like embrace the overflowing teacup of like gratitude and compassion for yourself and for others and for the world right now. All right, well, links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast will come out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com with any thoughts, questions, and more. All right, I'll see you soon. I hope you enjoyed the new microphone. Goodbye.